And so the first tape was very influenced by that, and that's why it was very mental health based. It was talking about, you know, literally wanting to just pack up and leave and go, and the struggles of being an entrepreneur and also being an artist, the struggles of trying to be a man of a house, the struggles of feeling lost as a lost boy and a lost soul. Yo KLAT, it's Lloyd Haines here, and this is my Get to Know Me for KLAT magazine. Yeah, so ever since I was born, I was like immersed into drama and musical theatre. So right from a young age, you know, I was seeing my grandmother on stage. She was a big singer in the West End, and she also sung to the troops as well in the war. So she was my first genuine music inspiration, aside from all the artists that I was listening to as a kid, through my dad's eclectic taste in music. It was actually her that was the first inspiration for me, seeing her on stage as like a toddler. And from there, as I grew up, I remember showing her my very first music video, my first performance video. I remember doing an acoustic set in like Newport somewhere to a bunch of people. And I remember showing her it literally on the year of her passing, and I've still got that photo today. So yeah, musical theatre and drama has always been in my life. My first ever music role in that space was actually as Oliver Twist. So after that point then, I sort of just fell in love with performance. But I knew that being the school choir boy, I knew that I wanted to shift that narrative slightly. So I wanted to make some sexy R&B instead. But you know, I had to go through the whole process of working on myself and crafting my tonality and my voice in the meantime. My favourite place to visit would be anywhere that has beats and incense. So that could be anywhere in the world. I travel a lot, I play a lot overseas. Last year was Croatia, Greece, Spain. I played in Budapest and all across Europe. You know, this season I'll be mainly in Spain again. And wherever I go, I'm always put in like a little sort of shack house, or it could be a villa, but sometimes it's just a little shack house. And I always make sure I've got my beats and my incense and also cups of tea. So really anywhere in the world, so long as I've got those home essentials, then yeah, I'm good, I'm Gucci. So I've always been told that I have like a meticulous ear for synthesizers and just generally beat making. It's always been something that's in my blood. I've always been the kid in class that was just drumming with pens or something, or just humming along, like, you know, it's just always been in me to just make noise and be that kid. I'm also raging ADHD, so I've always got to be having something playing in my head. It doesn't always mean that I have earphones in, so sometimes I'm literally just humming or just coming up with some sort of like drum pattern or some sort of guitar lick whilst I'm talking to somebody and they don't even realize that I'm doing it. So I think that for me it's been a case of channeling that like frantic and chaotic energy that goes on in my mind and putting it into a craft of substance and actually making it something tangible. So yeah, that's just how I've always been, to be honest with you. And then when I finally started putting the ideas down on paper, I realized that my production quality and production value was just improving over time. And I also realized that I'd like to say that I'm on par with a lot of people that I know who can produce, you know, at mass quantity. Like every day this week, no lie, I've done about like 6 beats a day. It's ridiculous. I'm just like totally obsessed with this game, and it's the way it's always been. Like even with like running so many different side hustles and businesses, music's always been my one consistency, always been the one thing that's pulled me through of like the darkest times, and that's why beat making, it all starts there, you know? Because if I'm able to beat make for myself and for friends, then it means then I've just got a constant never-ending supply and I'm not relying on other people. I hate having to wait for somebody else to give me a project. I love collaborating with people, of course, but being able to do it myself and be a one-man band, that's where it's at. Balancing passions is near enough impossible, but I love the challenge of it. I think the thing about balance is knowing that there isn't any. Does that make sense? It's like understanding that in order to be totally present to what you're doing, there's going to be times where something's 60-40, 90-10, 80-20, and that's just the way that it is. There's some times where I have to be so engrossed to one particular project and it'll consume my life. There's other times where something is done and dusted in like a matter of hours and it ends up doing better than the thing that I put more craft into. So I think it's a case with balance that just don't be so fixated and so focused on the output, because ultimately the output is the actual journey to making it itself. That is the output you're looking for. So for me now, like I love creating more than I do releasing. Releasing is just a byproduct of the piece. By the point of releasing something, I've already achieved in it what I want. I think standing out among a crowd and among the noise is always gonna be a difficult thing if you're trying to do that. So if you're trying to stand out, then it's gonna come across inauthentic. However, if you're literally making art because you are an artist and it is your passion, naturally that's gonna happen. I always say that, you should let the audience find you and don't be so focused on trying to find your audience. I say the same thing to businesses that I work with, and I say the same thing to artists that I work with. It's exactly the same. And the two have a lot of synergy. There's a lot of cohesion between the two worlds, because if you're out there every day trying to prove yourself to an audience that isn't actually there for you, and you've sort of forced them into something, it's never going to work. You're always going to feel like you're fighting an uphill battle, and really you're actually going to change what you're trying to do. Whereas if you're just making something for you, you're winning. Like genuinely these days I make music for me. I didn't used to, years ago I didn't, but in the last few years I make more music for me and me only, and I jam the hell out of it. Like even the way here is like, I decided to walk here rather than even drive here. And on the way here I was listening to just mix downs again and again and again and again. Number one, to obviously change a couple of things and to get back into, be the perfectionist that I can be sometimes, but also just because I genuinely love listening to my own shit, like just the way it is. I'm my own biggest fan, and if you're not, then there's a problem. This is the juicy gossip. What personal experiences? Right, okay, so with Matrix, I was in a very different place at the time of my life. So that was 2 years ago now, or something like that. It achieved over 400,000 plays, which is amazing. It was my first debut tape. It got picked up by 50 Cent's This Is 50, and I was told that it was they said it was the hardest introduction of the year, which I was like, damn right it is, yeah. But I was also a bit like, what the fuck, how the hell has this happened? Then Red X magazine were like, yeah, this guy's the breakthrough artist. And I was in such a different realm of my life at that point. I was deep in love, I was vibing, but also I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and generally was depressed in other areas of my life. I refused to take medication for my mental health, which I should have been having since I was young. I was on and off it for years, and I was told again and again I need to get back on it. My diagnosis for ADHD came, I'm 28 now, it came when I was like 26, something like that. So it was like trying to deal with that, and then possible bipolar and all these crazy words being thrown at me in these terminologies, when really I didn't want to be told what it was that was wrong with me. I just wanted to be told how to put it right. And so the first tape was very influenced by that, and that's why it was very mental health based. It was talking about, literally wanting to just pack up and leave and go, and the struggles of being an entrepreneur and also being an artist, the struggles of trying to be a man of a house, the struggles of feeling lost as a lost boy and a lost soul in the world. And that's why the standout track on that for me, which people, it's funny because you can fixate on one particular project of a bigger project and think that that's the one, but other people gravitate towards something else. People gravitated towards Matrix perhaps because of the commercial value, but for me, there's a track on there called Men Don't Cry, and the reason why I said that is because, simply put, as it says in the tin, men just don't cry anymore, to the point where like I feel embarrassed telling somebody, like, if they say like, oh, what you been up to? And like, to be honest, bro, like yesterday I was stuck in bed, crying my eyes out. It's not something that you say. It's not a good vibe to put out there. And as a man, you want to be known as like the breadwinner. You want to be known as somebody who is providing. You want to be known as somebody who's resilient, determined, who's a lion, But if you're a lone wolf, a lot of the time, as it says there, it can be quite lonely. So for me, the first couple of tapes and singles I was doing was very much influenced by narcotics, partying, trying to cover up mental health with drugs that I was taking, and just excessive overindulgence in everything, from sex to money to cars to partying, everything. I then went on like a crazy kind of spell over the course of a couple of years. And when I was playing away overseas, I was living this like rock star lifestyle, which was in hindsight pathetic. But like at the time, I felt like the Don. And like, I don't think an independent artist talk enough about that. Like, independent artists get like a lot of this clout out of nowhere, whether it be from a show, whether it be from a release, whether it be from gigs, whatever, features, and it can get to your head. You know, you're shooting with, you know, all these people all the time. You're surrounded by models, you're surrounded by like liquor all the time, you're surrounded by drink and drugs, and things just get a little bit crazy. So I went on my fall down era, like the fall off it was. So I was just falling off. These days, however, now that I got myself in check, or getting there, you know, it's a long process and healing isn't linear. But after breaking my lover's heart, and her sort of accepted my chaotic ways for so long, then eventually it got too much for her. You know, I lost a 5-6 year relationship. I lost a house, I lost my business, I lost my car, I lost all my money, I lost my dog, and I lost my whole idea of what it was to be a family. And at that point, I was back to square one. I had taken all my childhood traumas into a relationship with me. I had taken all my hurt from being a kid and never seeing a marriage work. I took all that into a household and ended up ruining the life of the woman that I loved. And so today, a lot of my music is retrospective in that, it's reflective, and it's trying to spread a message to young guys particularly, that it ain't okay to be this, you know, cool guy who fucks bitches, makes money, like, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to change the narrative, really, you know? Don't get me wrong, now and again I want to talk about flexing, now and again I want to spit on a beat and talk about like how I'm the best alive, of course. But for the majority of the time, that's not it, that's not what you get every day, you know? The everyday me is the one who's trying to be a better person, basically. You know, I'm deep into my Buddhism, I'm deep into my spirituality, and really understanding who I am and what my purpose is. Because once you're on your why, nothing can stop you. So that's what inspires me. I know that's a big answer, but... It's funny because as a performer, I perform in a lot of different realms with the different hats on. So sometimes I'm a host and an MC. Sometimes I'm the singer, songwriter. Sometimes I'm the rapper. Sometimes I'm the DJ. And that varies. So it totally depends on the vibe. Like, I've played in some iconic venues. One of my favorite moments was actually when I first ever picked up the mic whilst I was DJing, because at that point, that wasn't something that people tended to do. And it was in Ibiza, it was years ago now. It was in Ibiza in Benjamin Park, and I was playing for Zoo Project. And I just love Zoo Project because all the Spaniards come out and they're purists, you know, they've got such a strong but strict taste in music, you know. If they don't like it, you'll know about it. If they love it, equally, you'll know about it. And I was just in the moment, and I was high as a kite on life, on the music, and just on the people. And in the moment I thought, I was played one of my tracks, and then I was like, you know, I'm just gonna spit on top of it. So I just started spitting like some hip hop flow on top of like techno drums, which just was like unheard of. I did that, and that was probably one of my standout highlights of those few years, because that's what really catapulted me to actually, you know, making music for myself and actually spitting on my own beats. Until then, I was a beat maker and I was a DJ, and people didn't realize that like I actually was a spitter. People didn't realize that I wrote my own stuff. So I remember posting that video, that one went a bit mad, and then after that, then it was like top 30 global. And then from there, then I just kept getting like label signings, mainly in the States, like Florida, New York. The guys at Street Kings like loved me, so they were just signing all these records from me, which originally I'd been like knocking on doors with and nobody wanted them. And I think that's one thing that I took from that one performance, was that this is a numbers game. Like, music is a numbers game, and if you're too tied to the result, you're gonna struggle, and you will fall into like a state of depression because you'll feel like you're not good enough when you are. Just because 9 said no doesn't mean that the biggest one, number 1, will say yes. You know, that generally happens a lot of the time. And then from there, I mean, some of the venues that I played after that have just been incredible. There was Biblos in Poreč in Croatia. That was like massive, a few thousand people. Funny story though, they wouldn't give me a bottle because they didn't believe that I was the one that was going to be playing. So they wouldn't give me a bottle of drink. They thought I was just a customer. And I was like, okay, cool. So I jumped on the mic, and then within 10 minutes they came over with my ride, and I was like, yeah. So. Okay, 3 products that I swear by has to be AirPods. You gotta have AirPods. And for a while I only had one in the case, and I was just determined to find the other one, and I didn't find it. Then I bought a second pair, and then yeah, of course, then the other ones turned up. So that was pretty annoying. Number 2, I'd say, gotta be. Do you know what? I'm gonna say a candle. You gotta have a candle to set the vibe wherever you are, right? And I don't think enough men buy candles, so I may just make something called mandals.com, which is like men's candles, because I made one the other day and I saw this is like genuinely a business opportunity, so yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then number 3 would probably be Twinings tea. I think that counts as a consumable, fuck it. Yeah, Twinings tea, because like I used to love Tetleys and PG and stuff, but then I just realized like Twinings is the one. Twinings Earl Grey, get on that. If I could master any skill, it'd be flying, because then I wouldn't have to fly to all these places on a plane. I could just do it myself. And I've stopped smoking weed, so I don't know how I'm gonna get as high as that now, so yeah.